Hi, everybody. Okay, so this is the email that I referred to in this morning's video. Um, so I'm just going to read it here. It says, Susan, I'm reaching out to you because I have not received a response to my email in regards to the Blow matter. I did receive a phone call today from Mark Berkwich, supervising visits, as that's part of what he does for a living professionally. Well, I know what he does for a living professionally, Owen. I'm the one who contacted him. I mean, and saying that he never got a response from me. Well, yeah, he did get a response. It was an indirect response, but it was still a response. I mean, what does he think? Does he think Mark Berkowitz just randomly calls up people and goes, "Hey, guess what? I supervise people for a living, so hire me"? No, no, that's not what happened. So what happened was, after Owen Johnson's last email to me, in regards to the Children's Access Agency only doing 2-hour visits, I then they suggested that I contact Mike Berkowitz, which I did, or Mark Berkowitz. Sorry, Mark. Um, so I contacted Mark, and he said. I contacted Mark and we talked for a bit, and then he said he would contact Owen and let Owen know what we discussed about, which clearly he did because Owen's now contacting me and pretty much indicating what Mark and I discussed. So um, Owen goes on to say, if you're willing to pay the $300, I am willing to accept. However, it sounds like you expect me to pay, and that's not going to happen. So over the last few videos, I have mentioned on how maintenance enforcement literally wiped out my bank account. Like, my bank account right now is sitting at zero. So my it had about $2,400 in it. It um it's now sitting at zero. So out of that 2,400, my mortgage was supposed to come out. So my mortgage is about $1,200. So my mortgage is now in default. Um my van payment was going to come out of that. So now I haven't paid my van, and chances are it's going to be repoed at some point. In which case, I'm not going to be able to get to work, in which case, I won't get to work, and hence, no child money for child support. Also, my Manitoba Hydro didn't go through, and the property tax got reversed. It was so bizarre. Like, looking at my bank statement, it went out, it went to Winnipeg, the city of Winnipeg, for property tax, and then it came back in and went out to maintenance enforcement. So I don't know how that works, but I know that property tax didn't get paid. Um, and I mean, this is all hurting my credit right now, and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. So, um, and I mean, like, people might say, well, you call maintenance enforcement, maybe you can work something out with them. It doesn't matter if I call them or not. I still am going to owe this money, and it's still more than I can afford. So what difference does it make? I mean, no matter which way you look at it, my mortgage is not going to get paid, or um or my van payment, or something. Like, it's insane. It just anyways. Um if you're willing to pay, then I'm willing to accept. However, it sounds like you expect me to pay, and that's not going to happen. So he just got $2,400. I'm sitting at zero, and I haven't seen the kids in over in 136 days. By next week, it'll be over for 140 days. And he's now saying that he's not going to cover the cost of a supervisor, even though the court orders that he's responsible for the supervisor. Um, Instead, he's trying to um, financially exploit me and use extortion, literally, because he's saying you can't see your kids unless you pay $300. So, and I mean, extortion is against the law, and that's exactly what's happening. And we'll talk about that in my next video. Um, he says, as I suggested many times, give me some people and you want to supervise, and that's the cheapest option for you. So he's just playing games here because I've given him numerous people and he refuses to do whatever checks he wants to do on them. Now, keep in mind, these checks that he wants to do on them, it's not a condition of the court, they're his conditions. Uh, but he is refusing to allow me to see the kids. That's what it comes down to. Um, I'll talk to them and get them to do the checks, and then we can get the visits going again. So I've got numerous emails um, from him, um, or sorry, to him in regards to the checks. He's not interested in doing checks. He's interested in procrastinating, in killing time, making excuses so that I cannot see the kids. The more he delays, the more time I get denied access. So um, then he says, or once Audrey is cleared, that works too. So Audrey might not get cleared for a few weeks. It might be a few months. It might be 6 months. We don't know. What I do know is that um, putting that kind of pressure on Audrey is not fair to her. Also, him saying, well, we'll just wait till Audrey's better. That's not fair either. That's not fair to me, and that's not fair to the kids. But that is exactly what's happening right now. Denying the kids access to their mother is not okay, and denying me access to the kids, that's not okay. Like I said, I'm a registered social worker. I work with children, youth, and adults on a daily basis. And the courts are saying that, and like I work independently with them. So for the courts to say that I need supervised visits for my own kids, meanwhile, indicating in the court document that I am supposed to be making the wage of a social worker, I mean that's ridiculous. Um it's basically saying to the to well myself and to other Canadians as well, you're not okay to watch your own kids, but we're going to stick you out in the community and put you in a situation where you have to work as a social worker. Um, and oh yeah, social workers, they all work with vulnerable people, children, youth, and adults. So, but we don't care about the Canadian population because all that matters is what Owen Johnson wants. Maybe that's a bit too harsh and a bit too sarcastic. But tell me how it is okay, how can the Canadian government rationalize that it is okay for somebody to be denied access to their own children, that they should be forced to be supervised while taking care of their own children, yet they are expected to work in the field that the Canadian government knows that deals with vulnerable people, such as children. It doesn't make sense. But that is exactly what is happening right now. So, um, and then in this sentence too, he's actually pretty rude, very derogatory towards Audrey. Now, Audrey's a friend of mine. She was a friend of both of ours up until separation, in which case she and I continued to talk, and he just didn't bother with her. And once he discovered that she and I were still friends, he decided he didn't like her. And you can tell by the tone that he is taking. Audrey is Once Audrey is clear, that works too, as I'm not 100% sure what's up with that. So the last email, he makes reference to, well, she was at court, so therefore she should be able to supervise. And as I said, well, just because she can get up and go to the bathroom or go and sit down in a chair doesn't make her okay to go running after kids. I mean, she just came out of a major surgery. And yes, she's taking a little bit longer than expected to recover. But it was a major surgery, and he knows that she has a hard time healing. She's got health conditions that delay the healing process, and he knows this. Um, Audrey was a friend of both of ours for years while we were together. So I mean, he knows how difficult it is for her to heal from injuries. Um, and I mean, the comment, as I'm not 100% sure what's up with that, why should he know? The fact that she said that she's not fully recovered and the doctor hasn't cleared her yet should be sufficient. He shouldn't be entitled to her medical history, but nor should she be a victim of his derogatory comments and innuendos. Um, I mean, imagine for a minute, and I'm going to use COVID as an example because almost everybody out there has either had COVID or knows somebody who's had COVID at this point. So imagine, and I mean, COVID, things can get pretty bad, which is why I'm using it as an example. But imagine somebody you know is really sick or you're really sick and and maybe the virus has already worked its way through your system, but you are just wiped out, like you don't have the energy. Because from my understanding with COVID, it takes you a while to respond or not respond. It takes you a while to recover. So imagine if someone comes up to you and goes, "Well, I don't know why you're not at work. I mean, what's up with that?" Or, "Oh, well, I don't know why you can't go out. I mean, what's up with that?" Well, I mean, come on, people need time to recover. And I mean, like I said, Audrey is doing us the favor, Owen, not the other way around. She's doing this voluntarily. And yes, I want to be able to see the kids. I miss them. But putting somebody's health in jeopardy, that is not something I'm prepared to do. And you shouldn't be um you shouldn't be wanting that either. Like that is just wrong. Um and then he goes on and is blaming me for his actions. So keep in mind, I have no control over um over being able to see the kids or not. I don't. But he blames me and says, "But you're dragging this out and only hurting the kids." Well, no, I'm not the one dragging this out. I'm not doing anything. I'm not allowed to do anything. Um, and then he says, if you can afford the visits with Mark, that's great. And if you can't, that's your issue, as you inherited almost $500,000. Okay, first of all, I didn't inherit $500,000. Second of all, he's basically saying if you can afford the visit of $300 for 6 hours, great. If you don't, too bad you don't get to see the kids. That's basically what was said in that one sentence. And he doesn't care either way from what how I interpreted that. Second of all, yes, I did inherit some money. No, it wasn't $500,000. But that money was already spent. So Owen, you really need to get past that. So that money was spent on lawyers. It was spent on paying off some debt. It was spent buying some things. And it was spent um it was spent because I wasn't working in a year and that's what I was surviving off of. Um but he keeps bringing that my inheritance up in court documents. He keeps bringing it up in emails. Like apparently he has a really big issue with my parents passing away and them leaving me some money. Um I would rather have my parents back than have had their money. Um but they did leave me some cash, and him trying to manipulate um how I spend it or trying to get his hands on it, that is pretty disgusting. Um and the courts allowing this kind of behavior is actually violating section 7 of the Family Property Act and also the Canadian Bill of Rights, section 1, I believe, where everybody has rights to their own property. Well, that the money my parents gave me, that was my property, as indicated in section 7 of the Family Property Act. So for him to be like trying to um I don't know, trying to maneuver things so that he can get his hands on or dictate how I spend it, that's not right. But Owen, you really need to get over it because the money is gone. Like it was spent. So you just need to get over it. Um but we're also in my next video I'm going to talk about extortion, and because the way I read that last sentence, he's basically saying pay the $300 or don't see the kids. And that is extortion. So, although I wasn't planning on making 2 videos tonight, I'm going to be. So my response to Owen was pretty simple. I said, Owen, the courts put you in charge of the supervisor. I don't have a cent to my name right now, as maintenance enforcement has garnished everything, and it's been over 136 days. 100, well, it's been 136 days. As I said, it's been over 130 days since I've seen the kids. And this email too will be going online. So why did I say it was going to be going online? Well, because it is. And second of all, because I'm determined to tell my story, to raise awareness on what's going on in the court system and how far the Manitoba family court system has fallen when the Canadian Constitution doesn't even mean anything to the courts anymore. Um, and when parents' rights are continuously being violated, and behaviors such as financial exploitation and financial extortion um, are not only um, promoted but enabled by this court system. Um, then I go on to say, if I'm going to be able to see the kids, you'll have to cover the cost as there's no other option as I cannot afford it. So my bank account is sitting at zero because he took over $2,400 um, through maintenance enforcement out of my bank account last week. So, like I said, I can't afford it. He can. He should be the one paying if it there has to be um, a supervisor. I go on to say there's no one else that I have to do the visits. It is up to you to figure out the supervisor as per court order. The judge's order is that I'm allowed to see the kids for 6 hours a week. Mike provides that, unless you can come up with a better option. So again, I'm throwing the ball back in his court and going, I can't afford this. There is nobody else to do visits, and the court's put you in charge of the supervisor, so you figure this out. Regardless, court order says I get 6 hours with them each week, which has not been happening. Anyways, that's the end of this video for now. My next video, we're going to talk about exploitation exploitation and extortion and what the legal definition is for both of them as per Black's Law Dictionary, which is my understanding is what the courts use for um, for legal terms. I could be mistaken with that. I honestly don't know. But I heard down through the grapevine somewhere that that's the book that they use, but I don't know. I don't know if that's legit or not.